Welcome to a Place to Perform orientation session. My name is Josh Phillipson. I'm a program associate here at the Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta. This is our newest program, and I'm excited to tell you more about it. The first thing I want to cover is a little bit about the Community Foundation. In case you're not familiar with our overall organization, I want to give you a little bit of context for how we operate funds here, including a Place to Perform. Then I'm going to go over the eligibility requirements for the program. I will talk about the program overall, so what was the genesis of it and what we're trying to accomplish, and what our priorities are within the program. After that, I'll go through the application. We'll go through it in some detail, talking about all the questions we are asking and what we are looking for in answers, what kind of information we need to know. And we'll, of course, cover the attachments that we're asking for as well. So a Community Foundation, what is a Community Foundation? The Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta is a community foundation. Every community throughout the country and internationally have community foundations as well, so we're a type of foundation. Our role is to provide services to donors who have funds, active funds here at the Community Foundation. We call those donor-advised funds. We serve as a grant maker, so we make grants at the bequest of donors and also through programs like this that are driven by the staff of the foundation. We're a convener. We bring people together to talk about issues and to try to move things forward in the community. And then we're a caretaker of resources, so we have money that is invested in the foundation by donors and by other entities. The mission of the foundation, so you'll see that we are providing services to donors is right there in our mission there. The foundation has a number of different types of funds. Donor-advised funds make up nearly 90% of the funds here at the Community Foundation. So most of the grants that we make are advised by donors, and most of those donors are living donors who have their own philanthropic priorities. We use a lot of our other funds, like a Place to Perform or like the Common Good Funds, or maybe some of you are familiar with the Metropolitan Atlanta Arts Fund, to not only support organizations, but to learn about organizations so that we can be resources for the donors of the Community Foundation. So it's an important R&D function of the foundation, these programs. The Common Good Funds is a program that's available for all nonprofits. Community initiatives, which is technically what the Arts Fund is, and this program, A Place to Perform, includes special funds that are aimed at a niche market in the nonprofit world, so the arts organizations, the performing arts organizations. Then we have local funds, which cover some of their outlying counties, scholarships for students going to school, and a few other entities here. Our arts-specific programs are the Metropolitan Atlanta Arts Fund, that's general operating support, and then A Place to Perform is our second arts-specific program. Some of our other general programs are a nonprofit Toolbox, which provides consulting help to organizations. So if you have an issue, like you need a strategic plan, the Toolbox can be a way to get funding to get that strategic plan, and we will connect you with a consultant and pay the bills for that consultant. And scholarships are a way for you as an employee of a nonprofit to get funding to go to a class or conference or some sort of professional development opportunity. We also have the Nonprofit Bridge Loan Fund, which provides short-term bridge loans to improve cash flow over several months. All right, so I'm going to move into our eligibility requirements. And if you have applied to other programs here at the Community Foundation, you will find these familiar. Many of them are exactly the same. And we try to, in most cases, make our programs have similar requirements so that they are easy to understand. If you know one program, you will understand how it works in another program. So I'm going to go through these one by one. the organization applying, and these are eligibility requirements that apply to the organization. So applying organizations must be within our 23 county service area. That list is in the guidelines. And for a place to perform, the venue you're looking to rent must also be within those 23 counties. You must be a 501c3 as classified by the IRS. You must be registered with the Georgia Secretary of State as a nonprofit. You must have a minimum 2-year operating history after you received your 501c3 classification. And you must have at least one full-time paid employee, paid minimum wage or more, working at least 35 hours a week for the 12 months prior. A couple things on this. One is that there's a little bit of change in this from previous years in our guidelines. We have previously said 40 hours a week. We've moved it down to 35 hours a week. Also, I just want to point out that contractors or consultants don't count towards this requirement. The way we distinguish that is we look at how they are paid. So if you pay someone with a 1099, they are a contractor. If you pay them with a W-2, they are an employee. So we look at the paperwork for that. Now this program does not require that you submit an audit or a reviewed financial statement, but we do ask that you have them. That if you are at a certain budget level, that you employ a CPA to get that audit or that review. So if your budget is over $250,000, you need an audit. If it's over $100,000, you need a review, which is a lesser level of an audit. If you're under $100,000, you may use internal financials. And we may ask for those. If we decide that we need them based on reading your application, we may ask for them. All right. We believe that boards of directors should all be making personal donations to the organization. So we ask that 100% of your board make contributions. Ideally, those are personal cash contributions, checks that your board writes to the organization. That doesn't mean that they get their corporation to do it, and we want to see personal cash donations. They may also make financially measurable in-kind contributions. Must have a board of directors representing the diversity and demographics of the community served, including individuals with varied skill sets and committee structure necessary to succeed. That's an important part of boards is representing the community, and we do look for diversity in boards. Must have a primary focus on presenting, producing, or providing arts programming for the public. We want you to pay your artists associated with your cultural program, artistic or cultural programming. That doesn't mean you have to pay 100% of your artists. We would like you to pay all your professional artists. We do know that there are some cases where performances are done with a combination of volunteers and professionals. Oftentimes in choruses, there are leads that are paid, and then the rest of the chorus is a community chorus. That would be okay. But if you're doing a full professional production, we would expect you to pay all those professionals. This next one is unique to this program. We want you to carry a current policy that covers a minimum of $1 million in general liability insurance and $1 million in accident insurance. Now, if you do not have a venue, you may not have this for 12 months of the year. We're looking to make sure you have this during the time where you have a venue rented. So it may be that you do not have it when you apply, but we will cover what we would expect you to show us about how you would have it during the time you are renting a space. Last one is a little bit moot. You have to have finished all your end of grant reports, ready previous place to perform funds. This is the first one. Nobody has any of those yet. But I did want to point out that we consider these grants to be 12 months long. So if you receive one in this cycle, then you would have to wait another 12 months before you are eligible to apply again. Okay, those are the eligibility requirements. I'm going to move in and talk about the program itself and the priorities of it. Place to perform provides grants to nonprofit arts organizations to assist them financially in gaining access to performance venues so they can produce performing arts experiences for the public. All right, we thought carefully about what went into this. So you have to be a nonprofit, of course, and we're looking to help you gain access to performance venues. So we're looking to help organizations that maybe have struggled to find a venue that works for them, that they can afford, have not had the right options in front of them, again, for the budget. And we're looking to create experiences for the public. So that is, in the end of the day, we're not funding organizations, we're funding you to provide services to the public as a nonprofit. So we're looking to reach new publics, better reach publics. So this could be going to an area that has not been served before, or it could be reaching a larger audience. Those are all important things to us. It can be reaching the same audience that you usually reach, but just doing it in a better venue. We expect to do about $50,000 annually in support. That's how much the program will generate, the fund will generate. In 2014, we're going to just have one deadline. So we're starting just with this December deadline to test it out. In 2015, we will be scheduling 2 deadlines. So there will be 2 more opportunities in the next year. Okay, so what will we support with a place to perform? The maximum grant size is $5,000, and that may cover direct rental costs, but not artistic or general production costs. And I have spent a good bit of time in the frequently asked questions explaining this in greater detail. And I'm just going to hit the top level of this, but I encourage you to go and download that and read that. So what we really want to do is help you rent a space that you wouldn't be able to rent before. So we thought about what are the most important costs to cover in that. The most important are what is the venue cost, so the occupancy cost. Of course, this will cover that. But oftentimes venues cover or require other expenses. So they may require that you use their technician or their box office. So we would cover those as well with this grant. Then there are expenses that you may have to use in a venue, but they're not contractually covered by the venue. So for instance, if you feel that the venue, you need a security guard at the end of your show to help patrons out to the parking lot, then that would be something that we could cover as well. Or perhaps the venue doesn't have enough chairs, so you actually have to get those chairs into the space, so you need to rent them. So we could cover that as well. We can also, so if your production does have some, and you might think of these as artistic costs, and we're still trying to figure out exactly what the language is here, but generally if your production has some particular needs that mean that you really just couldn't do it in that space. So for instance, you're a chamber music ensemble and you have to have a piano, and the space, you have to either rent a piano from the space or you need to move a piano into the space, then that would be something that we would cover as well. However, if it's a cost that is just a general production cost, something that you would do no matter what space you were in, then that would be something that we would not be looking to cover. So by that I mean if you were going to, no matter what space you go in, you are going to have to pay your actors, we're not going to cover that. We would expect that's just part of your regular operating budget, and that's not going to make a difference in this venue. So it's really about this specific venue and the required costs, and then following that, the things that you think you also would need, and then after that are things that would make your production successful. So we really want to know what are the expenses you must have covered, and those would be the highest priority for us to cover. We want applicants to have a written commitment from the venue that the performance space will be available for the requested time. And the reason we do this is that we want to be relatively sure that a grant that we make will be successful in helping an organization get into a space. So we don't want to make a grant and then find out that, well, the space isn't really available. So what we're looking for you is to be in contact with venues and know that that space is available and have something to show that that is available. We are not asking you to contract the space, so we're not asking for a binding commitment from the organization, from the venue, that you will have that space. We know that that is not possible in most cases, but we do want to know that it is available. Ideally, you would have maybe right of first refusal on the time you were looking at, and you could show that to us so that we would have the confidence to say, oh, well, that space is available. As soon as we go through the grant process and make the grant, they can go and book the space officially. So that's the reason we want to have that information. Requests must originate from the producer of the performance, not the host venue. So we know that organizations, you may be looking to rent at another nonprofit arts organization, and in that case, we want the producer to make the request, not the host venue there. And the request must be for venue bookings that occur, at least in part, between March 1st and December 31st of next year, 2015. That means that as long as part of your run is in that frame, then you are eligible to apply for this program at this deadline. If it's going to happen after December 31st, 2015, then there will be a deadline next year. There'll be one in the early part of the year and one in the late part of the year, and you can apply for that one. All right. So that's the description of the program. What are the priorities of the program? So if we're trying to decide between lots of good requests, what are the things that are the most important? What are the things we're really looking to accomplish with this program? The number one thing that is a priority for us is to help address the inadequate space that we have in this region for performing arts groups. So if your arts organization doesn't have adequate performance space for a particular program, if you do not have a home yourself and you always rent out space, then these are our top priorities for this program. Regionality. So the foundation covers 23 counties, and we would like to, we think it's important to serve organizations throughout this county, and it's important to serve audiences throughout this county. So we would be very interested in requests that took either organizations that are in Fulton or DeKalb and they went out and performed in other counties, or from organizations that originated out in those counties. That's a priority for us. It means we will look at all applications that come in front of us, and we will be funding organizations that are performing just in Fulton County, but we really do want to see applications from all over the region. That would be great for us in meeting our goals to fund the whole region. Building opportunities for audiences. So again, this is about supporting audiences and getting more performances in front of audiences across the metro region. Okay, so how do we evaluate the applications? So I will go through a little bit of the process, but I also want to cover what the types of things that we think about when we're reading the application and discussing them. A lot of these come from our general operating support guidelines. However, in our general operating support guidelines, we go much deeper in a lot of these. So the things that are a priority for us. We want organizations to employ organization-wide planning and decision-making and requesting support. We're not asking for your strategic plan. That's not something that we need to review for this, but we're looking for organizations to be strategic in their thinking and in the decision-making. So this might play into why this venue is important at this time. If you can relate it in your answers to your overall organization-wide planning, that would be important. We want you to have sound financial projections and budgeting related to venue rental. So we want you to really think through the budget for doing a production in a particular venue. We know that you do that anyways, but you really need to help us understand that and communicate that to us in an application. We want you to have audience that are interested in what you're doing. I mean, that's pretty simple for this. We want to, if we're going to be helping you perform in a new venue and cover the cost for that, we really want there to be an audience there. So we want you to show us that there's interest in what you're doing. So we're looking for organizations that have a need for a performance venue that's not met by a space that you currently lease or you currently own. So for the most part, this is about new venues. We want you to understand the requirements that the venue's owner or operator puts forth and be ready to address them and meet them. So this means that you are fully aware of everything that the venue requires and you have the ability to meet those. And then, like I said before, we want a reasonable assurance of the availability of the venue for the time indicated in the application. Okay. The review timeline. So this is, in terms of the process of how we review things, we will receive applications by December 12th. You email those into us. We will evaluate those applications over the next 4 weeks across the holidays, and we will let organizations know by January 16th whether they will receive funding or not. Then after that, we're going to give you a month to actually contract with the venue. So this means that you sit down, you make it official, you're going to rent the space for this time, and you acquire any insurance that you need that you did not already have. So you'll have the 30 days to do that. Once you have done that and given it to us, we can then complete the contract, our contract with you, and give you the grant. So that we have that 30 days to make sure that it all goes forward. If you are unable to rent the space, if something comes up, then we will not make the grant. Okay, I'm going to stop for a second, and if you have any questions about what I've said so far, please type them in there. While you're doing that, I already have one in here. This is an eligibility question for a new company. If you have not received your 501c3 yet, or is under 2 years old, then you're not yet eligible for this program. You would have to wait until you are you've been around for 2 years. Okay, I'm going to move on into the application. So this is a Word document that you download and you fill out. You either type into it or you use the pull downs that we have provided. So on occasions where there are pull downs, I will mention them. I'm not going to be showing them to you here. We start the application with very basic information. The one thing to pull out here that I want to make sure that you pay attention to is the request contact, name, phone, and email. That is who we will contact if we have any questions and to notify you about the results of the grant. So make sure that is someone who's going to be actively paying attention to their email so that you can answer any questions if we have them. All right, we ask you one very basic question about what your organization does, who it serves. We want just a little bit on your history. A little bit of history is good if it gives us context. Don't spend a lot of time on the history if it's just a long list of everything you've done. We're really most interested in what the organization does and who you serve. Some of the people reading this application will be familiar with the arts organizations that are around town. Myself and Lisa Kremen, the director of the Arts Fund, and director here at the Foundation, know many of the arts organizations really well, but there will also be other staff members here at the Foundation who may not know your organization. So really think about what does a reader need to know about my organization. This will set the tone for the rest of the questions that you're answering. We want to know a little bit of information about your finances. We want to know your revenue, your expenses, surplus and deficit, and your net assets and fund balance for the last 3 completed years. So in the first column, this is the year that most recently ended. For most of you, that'll probably be, if you have a June 30th year end, it'll be your 2013-14 fiscal year. We want to know your revenue and your expenses. Probably this comes from an audit or a review. It can also come from your 990, whatever the surplus and deficit, and then your net assets fund balance is really going to have to come from one of those documents. And then do the same thing for 2 years prior and the same thing for 3 years prior. In the drop-down menu, you will list if it's an audit or a review. If you're still working, if it hasn't you haven't finished your audit for last year yet, you can say audit still in process underneath the left column, and then give us the fiscal year end date. Right underneath the finance table, we're going to ask you what your total amount of debt is. We break it into 2 categories: non-mortgage debt. So this is anything that you are paying interest on is an easy way to think about debt. So we don't want to know about the bill that was due last month. We want to know about credit cards. We want to know about lines of credits, term loans, anything you have that you're paying interest on. And then on the right, we want to know the total amount of mortgage debt carried if you have a mortgage. Then we want to know what your current fiscal year operating budget is. If you've changed your budget during the year, that's fine. Just make sure that we have the most recent as approved by your board of directors. And then this last space, you have 500 characters, which is not a lot, but what I want you to do is look back at all the financial information you've provided, which is probably all the financial information we're going to see about your organization as a whole, and look at it and say, is there anything in here that raises a question? In the last 3 years, do my expenses spike in a big way? Do I have several deficits in a row? Is there anything that if you were looking at it and you didn't know anything about their organization, you'd say, wow, what's going on here? And if you have any question like that, if your numbers pose a question like that, I want you to try to answer it in this 500 characters. Because when we look through it, we'll look at and we'll circle things and say, what's going on here? And we're not going to really have any other place to get the answers. So you can at least tell us generally what the issue is or what was happening there in this 500 characters. We don't expect you to give us the full explanation. Just give us an idea so we say, oh, okay, I think I sort of see what's going on there because they've given me this answer right here below the financials. All right, underneath this, we're going to ask you for your sources of revenue. So we want to know where your revenue came in for your last completed year. So again, go back to whatever the year you have completely finished. Give us the total amount of revenue for each of these categories, and then the percentage of that of your total revenue. These categories are common across almost all of our programs. So you'll see something like the United Way. They don't give money to arts organizations, but we put that on there so that it works for any nonprofit in any of our programs. So fill this out as best you can. There's a few fields at the end that say other, so if you have something that doesn't fit into that, you may put it there and type out in the specify part what that is, and make sure it all totals up to 100%. We want a few pieces of information about your board, total number of board members. We want to know how many volunteers you have besides your board, number of full-time paid staff, number of part-time paid staff, and then we want you just to verify that you have a full-time employee that meets our requirements. So that pull down that says choose one there is just a yes or no. All right, then we get into the specifics of your request. So what performance venue are you looking to rent? Give us the name, give us the address. We want a contact there, whoever the contact is. We won't necessarily be calling them, but if we do have questions about the venue, we may just contact them directly if we think that's more efficient. What dates are you looking for? And then the quoted rental price. And so we want you to get a quote from them. If they have a nonprofit rate, please give us that rate. If they, please ask for a nonprofit rate, even if they don't publish one. See if they have one. Of course, you always do that anyways. And that rental price can, if they have costs that are included in the as required costs, you can include those in there as well. Don't include anything that you would also like to spend this on. This is just about what does this venue cost. And then you put the request amount. So how much are you requesting? Up to $5,000. All right. So then we have our narrative questions, and this is the meat of the application. This is what we are going to be reading and trying to make determinations on which organizations and which requests best meet our priorities. They are all between 1,500 or 1,000 and 2,000 characters. Those are characters that count every letter, number, piece of punctuation, and spaces. So it'll just cut you off. It'll stop you from typing if you reach that limit. And we were conscious of when we had different character counts. So the ones that have longer character counts, we thought maybe you would need more space to answer them. Ones that have shorter, we're just looking for a shorter answer. So those are conscious decisions. So I'm going to I'll go through each of these questions and tell you a little bit why we're asking them and what kind of things we're thinking would be helpful to hear about in each of them. Question 1, what is the production you are seeking to stage? How does this production reflect your organization's mission? So simply tell us what the production is and why you have chosen it. We have your mission statement, and we believe that organizations should be keeping their mission in mind in everything they do. So we will be looking to see that looking for the case you make that this is fulfilling your mission. A stronger ask is an organization that's doing a production that's really mission relevant. We want you to describe why the venue listed is your choice for this particular production. So why did you choose this venue? Why is this venue right for this production? And there's many different reasons that you could give there. We'll just be looking for you to make that case. And then we want to know if you have a previous relationship with this venue, and tell us what it is. Maybe you've produced there in the past. What do you, or maybe you, have been part of a production that's been there. Just we want you to know what your familiarity is with the venue. Question 3. Have you already reserved a contract with the venue for the dates requested? We want you to tell us the schedule for booking the space and your current arrangement with the venue owner. Because this is your place to say, here's the deal. We have this space. I talked to them, and we have this space held for us. They're not going to book anyone else until January 16th, so we definitely have it. Or you can say, look, this is the perfect space for us, and it's available, but they're not holding it for us right now. I mean, we just need to get our contract in. Whoever gets it in first gets it. That doesn't mean that we will not fund you, but we really want to understand what all the factors are right here. So Joe, tell us what the situation is with you and the space, and when you have to have things booked by. We want to know if there are what the benefits are and what the obstacles are to performing in this venue. So what are the things that you think may incur more costs? What are the things that will be boons to your organization and what you're trying to do about this venue? So we're looking. This is again sort of more about why is this venue right, and what are the things that may maybe things you have to overcome in performing in this venue. I will say that part of what we're hoping to learn in this as we run this program is really getting a better understanding of what venues are out there and how organizations are using them. So this is going to be valuable information as well for us to understand what the venue needs are for the community. So like I said before, this is really in the end about you getting out to the audiences and providing performances, providing artistic experiences for the audiences. And we're not interested in funding an organization to perform in a space if nobody comes. So we want to understand what you are doing to attract an audience to your performance. So this can be any number of things. We would be interested in what your marketing plan is, what your track record is, what your history is with bringing audience members to the theater. So this is your chance to tell us about that. How do we know you're going to have people at your shows? And then we want to know the history. So how many people came in the last year? And we want to know, this would also be helpful to know is how will this production and this venue help build your audiences? Is this something that will help you have more audiences going forward, or is it just about this one performance? And then our last question is kind of the bonus question that we won't really be grading, but we just want to know about. And this goes again to us understanding more about how we can best serve organizations with this fund. And we want you to let us know, give us the best sense of how you schedule your performances and make venue choices throughout the year. So we anticipate being able to use this information to help make decisions or influence decisions about when we offer the program, when during the year we offer it, and what periods we say that the grant is available for. So this will be helpful for us. It is not something that we will be evaluating as part of this request. But if it gives more context to your overall application, then of course we'll be reading it at the same time, and that will be helpful to us. So those are the questions there. It's a relatively short application compared to some of the other applications that we have here. And the idea with these narrative questions are these are the things that we need to know in order to make a decision. So we tried not to ask things of you that we wouldn't really need to know, unless we called it out like this question at the end here and said, this is something that we would like to know. It's not necessary to make this decision, but it will help us make the program better. And what that means is if we didn't ask it, you don't need to volunteer a lot of other information outside of the questions we ask. Really try to read the questions and try to figure out what we're asking, and that's what we're trying to answer there. Or that's the answers that we need to make the decisions. We do ask for some attachments. We want you to fill out our board information form. This is the same form that we use for all of our programs here at the foundation. It has changed a little bit. We're actually using the 2015 form. We just redid it for 2015, but since it was ready, I put it on this one. So if you have filled it out for a program in the last year, you will have to fill it out again. And we always want updated information anyways, but it's pretty straightforward to fill out. It's just putting your basic information about your board and their names. We want a detailed production budget with expenses and projected revenue for the venue-related aspects of this specific production. And what I mean there is we want the parts of your production budget that pertain to renting this venue. We don't need how much you're paying your actors or your musicians. We don't need things that are not related to the venue at all. That said, if you have one production budget that has everything in it, you can send that, and we'll look for the pieces that we need there. But if you can isolate just the parts that have to do with the venue, send it along. And we really are looking for that part to be very detailed. I mean, we want you to do your research about what it will cost, what you really think it would cost. We want you to budget it like you were not going to be able to get a grant, and you were going to have to come up with your own, you have to come up with the budget yourself without a grant from us. So be as detailed as you can, be as specific as you can. we want a copy of the rental contract for the selected venue. So if you've already booked the venue, if you've already contracted the venue, send the actual contract. If it is not contracted already, we want you to provide other evidence of the cost and availability of the venue for your production. So this is a piece of paper that shows that it is available and what the costs are. So that could be it could be a copy of their contract that have all the costs in it, and then some sort of note from the whoever manages the space to say at this point it is available. And then we want copies of the venue's general liability and accident insurance. So every venue should have this, and we would like to see a copy of it. We want to make sure that the venues that we're supporting organizations to go into have this basic level of safety. And then we want a copy of your general liability and accident insurance, showing that it's current and will cover the period of the venue rental. So if you don't have it at this point because you do not yet have the space and you don't carry it on 365 days of the year, that's fine. We will just be asking for that after we inform you that you have the grant. It'll be in the contract as something we need before we will make payment. So know that will be a requirement. Okay. If there are any questions about the attachments or about any of the other questions, please go ahead and type those in now. I'm going to cover a couple of other frequently asked questions here that I haven't covered up to this point. We've been asked, if my organization rents this space each year, can we apply for a place to perform to cover the costs? So if this is you rent out a space every year for a production, or you've rented a space multiple times in the past, is that eligible? Answer is yes, it is eligible. However, that type of request is going to be a lower priority than organizations that are seeking to get into a space for the first time, or are seeking to be able to rent a space or rent a venue that they've not been able to afford before. So our goal is to expand opportunities for organizations, but it's not ineligible to apply for one that you have rented in the past. We've been asked if this will cover education programs. In most cases, that's a no. The program is really about covering performances that are intended for a general audience and have paid performers. So for most cases, my experience, education programs don't meet those requirements if they have a performance in them. If you have specific questions, you can ask about that. So a couple other questions that have come in. If you rent lighting and sound packages from the venue, those would be, so if they're required by the venue, you have to pay our prices, then we would cover that. If they are expenses that you don't usually have in your production, so maybe you are wanting to do a production that has more technical requirements that you've ever done in the past, then you could apply for those. So we want to go to a bigger space and we need more lights and more sound, then those are things that could be required in there. If this is one of your general costs of producing wherever you go to have lighting and sound at this level, then that is a lower priority, and we would consider that just sort of a general production expense. So we're really looking to make the difference between you being in a venue and you not being able to be in a venue. And we consider that costs that are things that you wouldn't have to spend in whatever venue you usually produce in. So lighting and sound packages, it sort of depends on the situation. It is a lower priority than the actual required cost of going into a venue, though. There's a question, do we need a copy of your IRS determination letter? We don't ask you to give it to us as part of the application. For the most part, I'm familiar with a lot of the organizations in Atlanta, and if I know you have a 501c3 designation, we're not going to ask you for it. However, if you are a new organization and I'm not familiar with you and I can't find enough information out on GuideStar or online, I may ask you to just produce that, but I would do that outside the application process. I would give you a call or an email. For the most part, though, we don't actually usually request the IRS termination letter. All right. I don't see any other questions right now. So I put my contact information up. If you do have a specific question, you can shoot me an email, and I will try to answer that. I will also be trying to update the frequently asked questions with perhaps some of your questions here and any other questions that I get. We will update that on the website. And so I would encourage you, before you submit your application, just to download that document again and see if there's anything new in there and that may answer questions that you didn't know you had. All right. Well, thank you all for spending time here with me on the orientation session. And I look forward to seeing your applications and look forward to any questions you send me. Thank you.